Welcome to the Limitless Podcast, where we help you break free from financial restraints and build the life you deserve. If you're ready to escape the 9-to-5, create financial freedom, and take control of your future, you're in the right place. Each week, we dive into real strategies, expert insights, and inspiring stories from those who have achieved financial freedom, so you can too. Welcome to today's show.
Okay, welcome folks to another episode of Limitless Podcast. Today we've got John Laine. We're excited to have him on the podcast. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, Shawn, I appreciate you having me. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it a lot.
Awesome, man. No, I've been looking forward to this one. I know we connected a few weeks ago, and I know I've been following your stuff on social media. You've got an awesome story. I think a lot of folks resonate with that. So I'm really excited to kind of double click and go, into depth with you and learn about your past, a little bit of history and how you got into real estate. And then of course, learn more about what you're doing today. And we've got hundreds of investors who listen to this podcast, and we'd love to impress upon them what you're doing today. I think you're doing some really cool stuff. I guess to start, take us back a moment. How did you get started with real estate? I know you got an entrepreneurial past, but maybe walk us back to that first business or how you got into real estate.
All right. So wow, that's such a big question to ask. Okay. I got into real estate accidentally, right? It was not a plan. It was not a business. I didn't decide, hey, I'm going to go do this, right?
Right.
I'm an Army brat. And so
Thank you for your service.
no, that would be my dad. He did the service. I just got to schlep around the country. But thank you. We moved around a lot, like 70-ish addresses between the
Wow.
ages. I don't know. Before I was 18, roughly 70 addresses. I vividly remember going to 3 different kindergartens and 3 different first grades. We just
Wow.
moved. It was just always, we were just constant. And like, that was a great life. I loved it. I've never talked to any other kid growing up in the military had the same experiences. I've talked to some with 40 and 50 moves.
Hmm.
God, it just seemed like we were moving all.
Yeah.
And some of it was my dad being stationed. Some of it was Michael and I being shipped off to grandma's house for a summer. I mean, it was just very mobile. And
Yep.
by the time I could make my own decision, I got into a car wreck right around 18 and broke the bone underneath the eye.
Wow.
And that gave me a $20,000 insurance check. This is back in 1989.
Okay. So a lot of money.
20,
Yeah.
20 grand in 89. I mean, you could buy a house for that much money.
Yeah.
So I put money on a house, right? I was very fortunate. I don't have a college degree. I've been to college 5 different times. I'm n- not willing to jump through the hoops of getting a degree,
Yep.
but I pushed a broom. I was working as a carpet cleaner. I bought my first house. I had a couple of friends become roommates, and that was the start. I didn't want to move anymore. I wanted more stationary. I wanted to be in one spot with one, like, just some security because I'd never really had it before. And that worked out for a while. Another house in my late 20s. Ended up with this absolutely gorgeous palace of a home, floating home. So in Portland, we have what's called floating homes, right? You have them
Hmm.
up in Seattle.
Yep.
I bought a floating home. It was paradise, and like 56 windows. We looked out at Mount Hood on from the river on into Mount Hood. That was pretty epic. I really liked it. I'd go swimming
Yeah.
all the time, or sailing all the time. I'd come home from work, the gate would close, and I'd jump in the sailboat, go for a night sail. It was awesome. It was really,
Amazing. Yeah.
and then I got sick. 2001, April 2001, I ended up with getting diagnosed with a golf ball sized brain tumor. And it changed everything. That's when I made that decision of, oh, I need to make this a real thing instead of just buy one house for a while, buy another house stay for a while, buy right. The normal pathway that most people go, they buy a couple of houses in their lifetime. When I got sick, I ended up with $1 million worth of medical and was either make a ton of money fast or die. There was no
Mhm.
other option. It was gobs of money or die.
Wow.
And yeah, I watched, was super hopped up on painkillers and Vicodin, and morphine and oxy. I was a mess, but I remember watching a Robert Allen infomercial. Hey, come to whatever Sheraton at the time. Come to the Sheraton. We'll teach you real estate investing. Actually, it was the Red Lion. Sorry, I'm corrected. But it would come to the Red Lion. Yeah, it was. I had to get a friend to help me. I stood on the. They said, "Oh, we'll teach you real estate investing. It's $5,000 for a week-long course. It starts early September." And that was it. I started sobbing in the middle of the room. Like,
Wow.
I'm broke. I'm flat ass broke. I've got this time $200,000 worth of medical. Like, I don't have 5 grand. And I swear to God, random stranger in the audience came up to me and said, look, $5,000 covers my tuition or a partner's and a partner. So this woman named Chloe decided to be my partner, and I credit her with saving my life.
Wow.
Uh, yeah,
Incredible. Incredible.
just I started sobbing. I was apoplectic on the stairwell of this convention hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, John, I know you're just getting into your story, but there's so much there I want to talk about. I guess, first of all, you know, the difference between, because at this point you had bought and maybe sold, I don't know if you sold, but you had at least purchased a few homes.
free. Yeah.
3. Okay.
Yep.
And so you had experience with real estate, but there's a difference between, and I think you recognize this because that's why you signed up, you paid or not paid, but you went to the Red Line and signed up for this course, was that I think you realized there was a difference between sort of doing a DIY real estate job or just kind of buying a couple houses versus being a professional at real estate.
Yeah.
Explain that difference. What kind of led to that or that realization?
There was a light bulb moment at that Robert Allen seminar. Like, these are the old school infomercials, right?
Yep.
You got to
OGs.
go
Yeah.
to the
Yep.
hotel, you gotta
Yep.
right? And he's bringing out checks, like, the 3-foot cardboard checks. He's
Yep.
bringing out checks. Robert Allen, $25,000. Robert Allen, $18,000. He's bringing life-size 3-foot check out, showing the audience, this was the house. This is how much this was the house. And I mean, I'm super stoned. Like, I cannot overemphasize how many pain meds I was on, but I got it. I'm like, oh, I could do that. And, and I did. My very first real estate transaction was essentially in a hospital bed. I was talking to the guy going through chemo next to me. He was losing his house too. He was terminal. I was terminal. I'm like,
Wow.
I can get your house sold. You can get your money. I can make some money myself. And I can, right? I mean, it was just this marriage of hell. Hey, I mean, nobody wanted this, but we were
Right.
both in the situation. 25 grand, a hospital bed in 6 weeks.
So basically wholesaling his property. Is that what? Wow.
Yeah. He was in the same boat I was. He was
Right.
going chemo and needed money. let's not have this conversation about healthcare in America. This is the most screwed up healthcare system on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, that's crazy. And I actually would love to touch on that for a minute, but a little bit later on maybe. But you knew, I think you obviously came to this Robert Allen conference or this event, in a place of desperation, but you were willing to spend, at least until that, your angel came by and saved you there. You were willing to spend, potentially up to $5,000 to attend this conference. I know there's
I
a saying in
didn't know that
business.
it was
Okay,
$5,000, right? That was the free seminar, and then I'd never gone
gotcha.
to this before. I had no idea.
Yeah,
All I knew
totally.
is that my problem was not fixable within my knowledge base.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. So your first transaction, you made $25,000. Amazing. Where'd you go from there?
Some doctor's bills. Uh, $1,750 per MRI, and
Wow.
I'd had more than 30.
Wow.
Yeah, so this first transaction, it kind of greased the wheels. It got the wolves at me a little. I could buy my meds, and I could actually, like, this is a solution. It was proven to me that it was a solution. And then, because I was losing my house, I was pissed off at the banks, right? I had $75,000 worth of equity in my house, literally being stolen. We lost our house in late August, and I went to the Robert Allen seminar in early September. So just weeks after I'd lost my house, I went to
Wow.
this. So it was fresh. I knew what was going on with bankruptcy, foreclosure, and car repossession. So I really focused on helping people who are also in foreclosure keep their home. Right? I'd learned enough of just basic real estate investing. I helped like later I helped 100 people keep their home and that were in foreclosure.
That's amazing. I mean, touch on that for a minute, John. I mean, you found purpose in your pain, right? To use the term. And yeah, how did you help people
Yeah.
stay foreclosure or get out of that?
So that's where this idea of compassionate capitalism really started for me. I would get an investor over here, do a lot of mailings, like 1,000 mailings a week for a while, and I would connect with the people who were in default. I'd literally tell them my story. Hi, my name's John. I just lost my house in foreclosure. I have this solution. We have investors standing by to help you. Give me a call. And it was literally
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
I would show them, I would tell them my story.
So
And
really is almost compassionate wholesaling in
Mhm,
some ways. Yeah.
very
Love it.
much so.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so our pitch was stay in the house, retain most of your equity, rebuild your financial security. And there was a fourth one. Oh, and lower your monthly payments. Like that was the stick.
Wow.
Those four little stay in your house, retain most of your equity, lower your monthly payments, rebuild those four bullet points. We did 2 transactions a week and each of these transactions had 40, 50, 60, $100,000 of equity in it. They were
Wow.
not small deals.
Wow.
And we would take it. So here's the foreclosed person. We'd partner with our investors. They would get a brand new loan, right? Buy the house, get a brand new loan. Let's say there's $80,000 of equity. We'd put a strike price of, let's say I'm gonna use today's terms, $500,000 house with $100,000 of equity. We would strike price it at 450, and we'd sign a document. Anytime within the next 3 years, you can buy your house back for 450. Meanwhile, appreciation is just doing what appreciation does. All of a sudden, in 3 years, the house is worth 550, and they've got a contract to buy it at 450. They get their equity back. And in the meantime, they've lived in the house, they've stabilized, whatever issue they had has been resolved. Yeah, it
Yep.
was pretty amazing.
That's a brilliant, I've never heard that. That's a
Yeah,
brilliant solution, John. Yeah. So, and I assume, is this how you made millions prior to 2008? Okay.
yeah, yeah. We did about 100 to 150 foreclosure bailouts.
Wow.
Fortunately, around 2004, 2005, the market shifted. There weren't as many foreclosures. And so I started buying just single family res in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
So then, yeah. So it's, I guess, switching gears a little bit. Tell me, you know, how things changed in 2008, 2009 for you.
yeah. Okay, so I was doing really well. Moved my portfolio. So I'm in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. I went through a pretty friendly divorce, late 2004, early 2005. And so I
Yep.
decided, you know what, I'm done with Portland. We don't have to do the foreclosures anymore. And so we started buying a whole bunch of properties in South Carolina. And so Portland, you could buy a house for 200 grand. South Carolina, you could buy a house for 25 grand, right? And so we just took the portfolio and said, all right, just buy more for the same dollars. And we were able to expand the portfolio huge in a couple of years.
Wow. And you had over what, 400 properties, I think, at one point?
Yeah, well over 150 sub twos. And then we bought the rest.
Wow.
And what we would do, we'd buy a house for 25, put about 15,000 in reno and sell it for 75 and carry that contract. $35,000 differential, we would carry that as a second mortgage.
Wow.
God for that, because that's what kept me alive financially. So the market fell, right? 08, 09. I was in the middle. We had bought March of 08, we bought a 13-story apartment building. And with the plan of converting it into affordable housing, right? Into condos. That was the plan, was to do this condo conversion on this beautiful 13-story building. And didn't know it at the time, but we financed with Lehman Brothers, right? Didn't know like the
Wow.
problems behind the scenes with Lehman Brothers, but Lehman had been our bank for a couple of years, right? This wasn't just new. Took us a couple of months to put the transaction together, but Lehman, we bought the building for 3.3. We got a $6 million reno budget. We were supposed to do $1 million a month for 6 months and then ultimately sell it for about 13, $14 million. That was the plan. And
Things don't often go according to plan, right?
God, it was a disaster. Like from the get-go, early June, July, we replaced the roof. We'd already started on the doors. We'd already started on the windows. We'd already started on the relocation, right? We're going floor by floor from top to bottom. And all of a sudden, we have $350,000 worth of windows delivered to our parking lot. Great. This is wonderful. This is
Yeah.
on schedule.
Yep.
They didn't pay for the crane. How do you get windows up a 13-story building? They didn't pay for the crane.
Wow.
And like, oh, this is a problem. This is late summer.
Mm.
Like, we keep calling. Now we're getting behind schedule.
Right.
And then, of course, September happens and the bottom falls out. You've got Aquin falling. You've got Wachovia falling. You've got Washington Mutual.
Yep.
All of the banks are failing now, like this whole season. And I forget which order, but I think Bear Stearns went first, and Merrill, and Lehman.
The
And
limit. Yep. Yep.
yeah, we went into receivership 45 days later.
Hmm.
Literally, I mean, we had this $40,000 a month mortgage with no occupancy, no windows, no doors. Like, how do you
Wow.
survive? Right? I
Wow.
mean,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
just like the perfect moment of, and then our rentals, right? So Spartanburg has one employer, the BMW plant. Everything else is
Yep.
ancillary. And BMW, right? The car industry failed as well.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden we're at 30 some odd percent vacancy, economic vacancy. People are still living in them. They're just not paying their rent.
Yep.
I
Wow. That's sorry. Go ahead.
know that's you can
No.
imagine.
So yeah. No. I mean, perfect storm, right? And a lot of factors that were not in your control. For example, Lehman Brothers, maybe the crane situation. I've being in development myself, I definitely understand that when trusses, roof trusses show up and the crane doesn't come along with them, right? So totally feel your pain there. But perfect storm, but you're no dummy when it comes to real estate. You've been doing this for a while. Obviously hindsight's 2020. I guess looking back, what were some of the lessons or takeaways, or what would you have done differently? Sort of
Oh,
question.
so it took us it 9 years to build 77 million assets. It took us 9 months to lose it. Ended up like close to $5 million in. The the big takeaway is diversification. I'm a syndicator. You're a syndicator now. Big takeaway is diversifying asset class, location, and operator. If you can diversify those three things, the big problem I had is I basically put all my eggs 50-mile corridor in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Everything I owned was in one spot. I was the operator and was just one asset class. Like the three things that now I preach regularly, I didn't do. That was catastrophic. I
That's
know
the
what I,
powerful. Yeah. That's powerful right there, John. I mean, just, as the saying goes, there are no regrets, just expensive lessons. Right. And
yeah.
that's the very definition of it. Right.
I
Yeah.
can
No,
tell you there
go
were
ahead.
regrets. Just to be like, I stood at the top of that building a dozen times. Like I was suicidal for
Wow.
a dozen years, like 12 solid years. Uh, here's the big lesson. Like
Yeah.
the real big lesson. My net worth equated to my self worth. The
Mm,
bigger the wallet, the smarter I was. And that was really hard to figure out. I I was the smartest guy in the room because my wallet proved my intelligence,
mm,
right? I was
that's good.
smarter, I was clever, and that was the real big thing to be able to separate my self-worth from my business. The
Yeah.
more we get successful realists, the more we think we're untouchable.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens to the best of us. No, that's really good, John. So if you could touch on today, what is your self-worth based in today that hopefully is more permanent, or I guess maybe more altruistic, if you will?
It is definitely more it's based on this idea of compassionate capitalism. Losing my big portfolio, it gave me a lot of time to think. From 2009 until only 2022, I didn't do anything in real estate. I did one small transaction in 2006, but I did not do in real estate.
Well,
Uh, I needed to reflect. I needed to heal. I needed to understand what my personal values were. And it didn't include jacking up rents. I had to really look around and say, all right, what are the problems that are really facing in this world? I come to this conclusion that affordable housing is the core basis. I don't, that's the core issue in society, in America, the affordability crisis, because of developers like me all failing in '08. There's between 6 and 10 million missing homes in the US.
Yep.
That's just, that's, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got several charts, like between 3 and 10 million, depending upon which report
Which
you read.
headline you read. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we, at Limitless, John, we focus on the capital problem because one of the issues that came out, as you probably know, coming out of 2008 was banks shifted from the LTV approach, the loan to value approach, the loan to cost approach, because they wanted more skin in the game from the developer and not be the one holding the bag in case things go south. Right. So, but because of that, that created a capital constraint and shortfall for a lot of developers who didn't have the big purses to fund more than maybe 1 or 2 or 3 units right at a time. So we're focused more on the capital problem, but I love what you're doing because it's focused on the affordability crisis, which I agree. I remember reading the book recently, Evicted. It's a great book that's written by, I believe, was it an MIT or Harvard grad? I can't remember. But he spent 4 or 5 years in I think, a mobile home park, basically, in the Rust Belt, and lived in this mobile home park for several years as a, member of this community. And he goes through how affordable housing is one of the most, essential and basic rights, if you will, that we need. And it's the home is a very, it's a place of rest. It's a place that we come back to, a place that we recharge, we refuel, we relax, we sleep, we eat, we, have family, etc. And if you look at the fabric of society, if we don't have housing, you lose almost this foundational layer, right, to society.
It's we have one of our investors, he's also one of our fund of fund managers, is a doctor, and he's doing a study specifically on the links between home ownership and health.
Fascinating.
Better marriages, better educated kids, kids go on to college, kids have better jobs, less divorces, less domestic abuse, less mental health issues. Home ownership is the cornerstone of a healthy, productive society. And
Fully
I mean,
agree.
and he's doing this massive peer-reviewed study, right? Specifically showing like 60% of homeowners, their children tend to have better schooling and better grades. And it's a big number compared to people who are transient. I was transient growing up. I failed ninth grade 3 times and never went to high school.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
Transient versus home ownership is huge, and outcomes are gigantic as a
Yeah.
system.
So probably a good segue, John. Tell me how Condo Fund works today and how you're solving the problem for both, homeowners, first-time homeowners, I assume, and your investors.
So this whole like hiatus from real estate gave me the time to really focus on what the problem is. And it really is affordable housing. So how do you solve it? New development in Portland, including is about $450 a square foot. I'm sure means that probably $500 or $600 a square foot in Seattle, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Detroit. Everywhere you've got these high costs for new development. That doesn't work. If you're a first time starter home, I bought a starter home for $56,000. That
Wow.
was my very first home. I was pushed a broom. I was a carpet cleaner. Like, that was a starter home. Those don't exist. D.R. Horton is not incentivized to build starter homes, right? Their starter homes are $900,000 or $800,000 here in Vancouver.
Yep. Same here in Seattle. Yep. Not worse. Yep.
They're not in, there's no incentive for that. So we buy old, beat up apartment buildings, can do a massive reno, get them to starter home quality, new kitchen, new flooring, new appliances, washer, dryer, whole 9 yards, right? Build them. We put generally about $50,000 to $75,000 per door in reno. And then we sell them as condos. We go through, it's a year-long process, legal and stuff like that, but we'll convert those into starter home condos. We'll
Wow.
buy
And what size are these condos, John? Like give our audience a sense of what these condos are like, bedrooms, bathrooms.
small,
How,
like really
okay.
clearly there. This is a part, you got to figure we're buying apartments, right? So studios and one bedrooms, right? Starter home. I'm assuming no children. I'm assuming probably not even pets. This is one or two people living in a small place, but they're 400, 600 square feet. That's pretty standard for anything in the interior of the city. Like good, we always buy with, got to be close to a light rail station, got to be close to a grocery store, got to be close to a bus. We buy in places that are not car dependent.
Okay.
So
Yeah, makes sense. And then what's the price point for these condos, and also how much, if you can walk us through a average project or a deal, how much are you buying the overall building for? How much do you put in it for reno? And then what's the finished price
can I
look like?
share my screen?
Please
It's
do. Yeah,
it's a so ask that question. I'm gonna pull up my screen real quick.
sure. So yeah, give our audience a sense of, what is the price for the building pre-renovation, your renovation costs, and then what the average finished price might look like.
You see this green pitch deck? Okay, great. All right. I'm gonna just share 3 slides real quick. We work with nonprofit housing providers. Start with that. We actually work with 2. They've asked me specifically not to share in public. So just nonprofit 1, nonprofit. In a normal scenario, market rate transaction, right? The price in Portland is about $1,800. If this 12 unit is run well, 1750 times 12 months, times 12 units at 70% NOI, 6 cap is roughly $3 million. If it's owned by a nonprofit, a housing NGO, you're going to have way different metrics. You're going to be at 1100. You're going to have terrible NOI because nonprofits will typically put their staffing costs onto the building. So buy $1 million, there's a $2 million delta. Call that piece.
Yep,
So in
track
our
it.
example, we bought it here in Portland. We bought it at $65,000 a door. And then we're putting almost 2 million, 1.9 in reno, 1.95 reno.
Okay.
So bought at 1.5, putting almost 2 into reno. Right? So these are buildings that are well past their sell by. They're no longer depreciated. They're no longer advantageous to own. And then
Got
our
it.
model, we try to keep that idea of mortgage to rent parity. Mortgage to rent parity, right? So that same $1,800 a month rent, we try to get starter homes between 175 and 250. We really don't like to go above 250. And mind you, the median price for a house in Portland is about 550. So we're a couple $100,000 cheaper. And our goal is to be rent parity. PITI plus HOA, 1,800 versus their rent. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, that's beautiful. And how quickly are these units going?
We just got them on the market about 3 weeks ago. We just got one into escrow So it was listed and sold in 2 days.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Full price
Congratulations.
offer, no
Yeah.
concessions, $530 a square foot for a
Wow.
381 square foot unit. Like,
Wow.
it's small, but it's owned. You get to own it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Pretty, yeah.
And on the flip side, no, it's a beautiful solution, John. It's, there's, affordable housing is something that's not, a lot of people throw that word around, but actually effective and realistic solutions are few and far between. So the fact that you figured one out or, seems to be landing is amazing. And obviously big congratulations on that first sale here. What, I guess, on the flip side, obviously with compassionate capitalism in mind, what are investors making on these projects?
So we're about to close our first transaction. We bought it 13 months ago. This is campus condos. We're expecting a 1.35 equity multiple. I think we're going to be done in about 75 days with this transaction.
Okay.
So a total of about 15 months from start to finish, 15 months from start to finish. And I think it'll be close to 1.35 equity multiple.
Amazing. Amazing.
And get back 135 in less than 18 months.
Wow. Any tax benefits for the investors? Can you 1031 into these projects? Can you
Yeah, I'm
depreciate?
gonna roll my eyes on that one. There
Yeah, I
really
know.
aren't. I don't. If this was a longer term hold, then it would make sense to depreciate. If there was a longer term hold, then you'd get a better tax. But in the 13-month transaction, 15-month transaction,
That's a pretty
is
healthy
that-
return.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't count on the tax benefits as much.
And then where do you plan to go from here, John? Are you planning to scale this model? Tell us more about the horizon, if you will.
So later this week, Friday, I'm going to talk to an operator who wants us to partner with him specifically on our model on his asset. So instead of purchasing these assets, we've gotten invitations from a half a dozen operators across the country to partner with them, show them our model, and do it in Cincinnati and Roanoke, Virginia, and Bethesda, Maryland. Right? We've got
Wow.
invitations to all these other operators. Seattle. Oh my God. I can't believe how many. Yeah.
Come on up, man. We got
Like, oh, I love Seattle. Yeah.
yeah. Happy to help you out here. Yeah, no, totally. It's a great model.
Yeah. It is replicatable. That's the goal, right? That's the proof is there. We're closing our first Danville, Virginia deal probably in the next 5 or 6 days to show that it can be done outside of Portland.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
No, well, you've had, some bumps along the way, some big bumps along the way. I know, I think kudos to you, John, for picking yourself up, brushing yourself off, and, taking the time that you needed too. Like I think often we just sort of live very sort of reactively, right? And we're just bouncing from thing to thing. But kudos to you for taking time off and, pressing pause and, telling yourself, hey, self, need to recalibrate here, need to reposition yourself and figure out what you want to do when you grow up. So congratulate, it sounds like you've found a lot of purpose through that pain. So
It really has been this baptism by fire. At 57, I am more fulfilled right now than any other time in my entire professional career.
wow. Yeah.
I love. So we went down to Salem. Salem is the capital of Oregon. We went down to Salem yesterday. There is a group of 100 of us spearheaded by Habitat for Humanity. And we went with a specific goal of talking. We talked to 3 legislators and a senator with the specific goal of working on affordable housing, down payment assistance programs funded, and, condo reform laws taken care of. Yeah, I am wildly passionate about solving this problem because I know that there's other people, right? I mean, there's 5,000 people in the Portland area that are specifically working on affordable housing. Little known fact, your audience probably don't know. There's 50 million apartments in the US.
Okay.
5.2 million are subsidized housing paid for by HUD or some other organization.
Yep.
One out of 9 homes in the country, not one out of 8, one out of 9 apartments in this country are subsidized.
Interesting. I did not know that.
It's a nonprofit housing is $1 trillion.
Wow. Wow.
It's a very big number.
Wow.
And yeah, people don't really get the power of these nonprofits. The one that we work with owns $500 million worth of assets. And that's just in Portland, right? I'm guessing the Seattle Housing Authority is 3 or 4 times that much.
Yep. Certainly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, love, man. I guess, I think there's the answer is pretty obvious to this, but one of our goals with this podcast is to help folks achieve financial freedom, right? And I think from what you're describing, obviously you're achieving financial freedom for, your not end user, but the home buyers, right, are basically getting that much needed step up, that home equity, right, which is the backbone of wealth in this country. Do you have a focus? There's not a right answer to this per se, but you have a focus on the investor side and helping investors achieve financial freedom through real estate. I mean, I think that was your story in some ways, right? You were able to, dig yourself out of medical debt, et cetera, through real estate. Do you focus on the investor these days? I mean, obviously investors benefit, but just curious where you sit on that.
So I've been asked, what type of investor do we like?
Yeah,
We
good way of
like
putting it.
nice investors.
Okay. Yep.
I lost $5 billion. It took me 15 years to pay that money back. I want to, I mean, I don't anticipate that ever happening again, but I
Right.
want nice investors. We're not the jack up rents and call it good. We're not that company. We're not gonna raise rents and just hope for better cash flow. And that's not us. We are genuinely, we use the word compassionate capital a lot. Both words are important. We have really one without the other. The investors we're looking for are nice. Like,
I love it. Love it. Yeah.
this is mission focused. We are like the one true north metric. We look at
Okay.
how many homeowners do we create? As long as our investors are making 1.35 equity multiple, everything else is secondary. They have to be nice. Like, this is definitely very mission oriented.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I love what you're doing too, John, because it's profits and purpose, right? I think a lot of times purpose gets sacrificed for profits or vice versa. Profits get sacrificed for purpose. And, and both don't really work very well. Right. But seems like you've achieved that magical utopia of the two going hand in hand, which is amazing. I think there's a lot of investors who want not just to make money or to do better than the stock market, but to also do a lot of good. So nice investors. We'll definitely have those reach out to you. How do investors get involved, John? And I guess give us a sense of your next deal that you're raising for and how much you're looking for and minimum investments and all that fun stuff.
Well, it'll be closed by the time this airs. So
Okay. Awesome.
we have small deals, right? We do small transactions. Pricery, which is the one in bill, that's a $750,000 raise.
Okay.
Right? We have raised 600,000, so we only need 150 left. But typically, that's a 12-unit apartment building that we're going to convert to condos. So our raises are super fast. 150, 1.2, and 1. thick spot, right?
Yep.
Small deals, they go very quickly. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And that's 750 or 1.2 is the full cap stack or the full purchase price, or is that just the equity portion?
That's the equity portion.
Okay.
We don't generally, so part of our business model is we don't buy anything more than 40 units, right? That's just part of our business model. So they're never big price tags. We don't big apartment complexes don't really fit this model. You could buy 100 apartment building and it would probably be fine, but it doesn't lend itself to building. So our tagline is build community, build well, right? And so we believe that community is also important in this home ownership experience.
Yep.
And small unit count is really important. Therefore, we don't have big dollars to raise. We don't do big transactions.
Love it.
There.
Yeah, we'll definitely share your contact information, John, for investors in the show notes, and definitely have your email and your contact info there. I guess a quick couple fire round questions, couple fun questions for you. Favorite book?
It goes back to Robert Allen, Multiple Streams of Income.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm going to amend that. I'm going to say zero down.
Okay.
Because that really was the significant. Everybody talks about Robert Kiyosaki, but Robert Allen was the original guru in this space. And
Yeah.
nobody literally saved my life. I have personal correspondence with Robert Allen telling him my story. Because I'm deeply grateful for what I learned from him.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
If I came to you as just, as mentioned, as kind of a lay investor, had never really done real estate or whatever, and say I had, $50,000 to invest, or say $100,000 to invest, where would you tell me to invest it? And I could invest in anything. Could be real estate, could be not real estate. How would you tell me to invest it?
I get that question pretty regularly. Like, people reach out to me on LinkedIn. My first answer is buy a fourplex. That is, it goes to this cornerstone of security. Whether you own your own home or not, the value and the benefits of owning even one fourplex, super easy to finance, 5% down. Now that FHA changed their rules. Yeah, fourplex. Everybody should own a fourplex.
Love it. So, and to be clear, house hacking that fourplex. So you're living in one of the units, you're buying it as a primary, but you got 3 other units to rent out. Yeah.
I love the model of fourplex. I was house hacking before the term was a.
Yeah. I love it. John, I know we're at the top of the hour here, but really appreciate your time. Amazing interview and just your story. Thanks for sharing with us. I think we could probably keep going on for hours and hours here with the wealth of experience and knowledge you have, as well as your journey to get here, but really appreciate you sharing what you share with us.
Love this,
And
Shawn.
yeah.
You and I clicked, right? When our very first phone call, I'm like, oh, I like this person, right? So I
Likewise.
love
Yeah.
this is definitely, I love that you're close. I love that you're in Seattle. Yeah, we should go and have a beer sometime and just hang
That
out.
sounds awesome, man. Well, let's definitely do it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, John. Thanks again for the time, man. And again, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you all for listening.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Shawn.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Limitless Podcast. If you would like to learn more about creating financial freedom, visit us at limitlessnewconstruction.com and check out the show notes for more resources. And don't forget to show some love by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Keep investing in yourself and keep living limitless.